Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday night and welcome to Inside D2 Football. We have the full crew along tonight because we have a lot to talk about from a very busy and exciting weekend of Division II football. We even had a lot of teams that were off this past Saturday, but we have no shortage of conversation topics. So with all of that to get through, we've got all five of us here for tonight, along with Matt Witwicky, Coach Poe, Justin Palizzi, D2K Ferg, Chris Ferguson, and Tony Nicolette. I'm Chuck Bittner here for the next hour and a half to get you up to speed on everything that happened this past weekend and start getting ready for the final month of the season. And guys, good news and bad news. It's the same. This will actually be the last show for the next month where we don't have regional rankings to talk about because, as a reminder for everyone, the first release of regional rankings will come out a week from tomorrow. That will be a Monday. And of course, as we've seen for the last couple of years, that first release will just be a list of the 10 teams that are under consideration, not the ranked 1 through 10 teams. And then it'll be the following Monday, we'll get our first look at the 1 to 10 rankings. So it's here. We have one more week where we can focus just on the games at hand and not get ourselves mired into the conversations about rankings and records and KPI and SOS. But it will be here before we know it. But until then, we have a lot to get through. So let's get right to it, guys. We are going to start in the GLIAC. Really busy weekend for the GLIAC. We have a lot to unpack there. We didn't necessarily know if this would be a lead game, but looking at that result, definitely one that we have to talk about. We have Saginaw Valley going to Lubber Stadium, get their first win over the Lakers since 2012. Huge win here for the Cardinals. Tony, I know you were there for this one. Got to see this up close and personal. So we'll get your take on that. Whit, do we want to roll some highlights on this before we kind of throw this to Tony and go through his observations?
Yeah, and before I do throw on the video, for those who weren't aware, our guy Tony was on the mic for this one. Handsomest guy on our set, handsomest guy in the booth. So let's go ahead and
sorry, Brian.
There's a whole lot.
It's Whit's fault.
A whole lot to unpack here. I watched this game from the convenience of my couch, and a lot to unpack. So big win by Saginaw, but let's go ahead and see. We've got right away Mason McKenzie, quarterback from Saginaw, very, very mobile guy. And both defenses really kind of got after each other. You know, the offenses in this one, both squads getting 4 sacks. You're going to go ahead and see Grand Valley, when they get the ball to some of their skill guys, they've got great speed. And the challenge they've had is they haven't been able to run the football, Chuck. They were under, 50 yards net rushing the ball in this contest. You're going to go ahead and see Grand Valley go up, which should be 8 points right here, and really start to put themselves in a good position. But this is where the game kind of starts to turn a little bit for Saginaw. They go ahead and they bring this one back for a score, and then the weird things kind of start. You know, you get 2 points here for Saginaw, and then the refs decided that they were going to go in and take about a 20-minute break right before half to try and figure out where the ball should be spotted before a field goal. I'll be honest with you, this was madness to watch. But nonetheless, Saginaw ends up booting a field goal after we kicked it about 4 or 5 times, I think. No, and all of a sudden we have a 13-11 game at half, and both teams are feeling a little chippy. That whole 20-minute thing did not help at all. And you see Mason McKenzie right here. This is what he is so good at. Looks like he's going to score, but he puts the ball on the deck, and that was a fumble. Ball was out before he gets there. Now, this is a wild play. This is a grounding penalty where the quarterback is throwing the football, gets his arm hit. Somehow the officials don't see it, and that's not reviewable. Yikes. End up having a 13-13 game right now. This is like a Halloween game all of a sudden. And Grand Valley goes for a fake punt, doesn't come up with it, and McKenzie he is a playmaker here. He ends up having a few picks, fumbles the ball once, but also makes big plays for that club. Grand Valley marches right down and scores just before the minute left in the contest. They decide they're going to go for 2 because the offense is clicking. I'll be honest, I was kind of thinking maybe they had some special play dialed up or something like that. I'll be honest, I didn't think that this was necessarily a special play per se, just one that they thought that they could go ahead and make happen. And you're going to go ahead and see the rollout here, and ball gets tipped away, and Saginaw ends up coming up with the win. Their first, Chuck, I believe, against Grand Valley in over 10 years, and their first at Lubbers in what 20 or whatever it may have been. And this was a wild game because there was ups and downs for both teams. I thought both defenses kind of controlled the action, with the exception of a big play here or a big play there. And Saginaw Valley, Chuck, is now 3-0 in GLIAC play, and with the conference champ getting a chance, if they were able to go ahead and find a way to the conference championship, they get in the dance. So they're 4-3. One of those is against was it New Haven, who's now a D1 opponent. But and at the same time, Chuck, I'm looking at Grand Valley here at 4-2 and 2 losses in D2. So those were my thoughts, Tony. Unpack. How did you see it, buddy?
Well, your thoughts were actually pretty well aligned to, I think, how we felt in the booth. Grand Valley gets that second touchdown in the second quarter, and you think they're going to go up 14-6. They're actually moving the ball relatively well, not running super effectively, but just effectively enough. And they were doing enough in the pass game to where you just never felt like Saginaw's defense was really stopping them. And there was a point latter part of the second quarter there where I think we got one of the stat updates, and Saginaw had run, I think, 17 plays for 41 yards, and Grand Valley was up somewhere around 150 yards. And so you're just thinking, okay, this is, a game that Grand Valley seems to have the better of, and they're going to keep it going. And you showed the clip of McKenzie getting sacked. Both quarterbacks were sacked 4 times in this game, but all 4 of Grand Valley sacks came in the first half. And one of the things they were doing a great job of was they had a lot of rush integrity in that they weren't giving McKenzie an escape hatch. And so he wasn't able to get out and use his legs to cause any problems. And so that's why you saw that they kept kicking field goals. They had great field position all first half, and they were only able to cash in for field goals with it. You get into the second half, and even though they started to roll McKenzie out a little bit more and the pressure wasn't getting to him as much, you pointed out here, the Lakers were able to turn him over 3 times. And so, at the end of the day, there was a lot of weirdness, but when it came down to it, the only time Grand Valley really moved the ball with any effectiveness was on that last drive when they had to go down and get a score to tie it. And guys, 38 yards on 32 carries. That's the stat line for Grand Valley's rushing attack in this game. And I think over the course of a game, we all know that offenses that are going to have a way to win or are of dominant teams, if you're going to lean on somebody, it's usually because you can run the ball effectively and you wear somebody out. And Grand Valley wasn't able to do that in this game. And over the course of the game, Saginaw, even though they weren't super effective running the ball in the traditional sense, they found ways to get the ball to Terrence Brown a couple of times. And that move to slot for him has been really critical. And Mason McKenzie, they do things that are either designed for him or on the scramble, but most of what they were effective with was designed, and they didn't overload him. I don't think he had a lot of carries in this game. I don't remember how many carries he had, but it wasn't north of 10 or 11, I don't think. But they timed it well, and they blocked it well, and they schemed it well. And so it was just over time, they got him in the right spots, and that touchdown that he had to take the lead was a 3rd and long or 3rd and somewhat medium, and I think they just caught the Lakers thinking they were going to throw, and they dialed that keep right up the middle, and everything was clear from there. So I think, hey, it was an interesting game to call. The officiating definitely was a little bit different than anything I'd ever seen. But at the end of the day, if you're Saginaw, they just kept at it and kept at it and kept at it and finally broke through. And if you're Grand Valley, you're looking at it going, okay, the lack of a run game just absolutely took us out of what we wanted to do. And it ended up costing them. That's really it in a nutshell.
Well, and with each of these games that we have the box score for in the video, we're going to break down in great detail because we feel they're games that have a big impact on the national scene Ferg, we're gonna go ahead and talk about both teams, but let me unpack, if you would, Grand Valley now with 2 losses, one to Pitt, one to Saginaw Valley. They still have the Ferris game ahead of them. Then, do we feel like Grand Valley, Ferg, if they get a 3rd loss, do we feel like they're kind of getting a standing 8 count and maybe are on the risk of not making the postseason? How do you see this now as we're kind of looking this at bigger picture?
Well, it wasn't a game that they could afford to lose. I mean, 2 losses, you're already kind of on the bubble anyway. Now, if you don't make it through Ferris, and nobody has seemed to have done so far, man, yeah, you definitely are going to be, really at the bottom end of that bubble. I mean, that's a tough place to be right now. If you're Grand Valley, they're literally fighting for their playoff lives.
You know what, Chuck? I'm going to come to you next. Saginaw Valley now undefeated in GLIAC play. I feel like, they still have the Ferris game up for them as well, but I feel like they're now kind of what I'm going to call a dangerous team the rest of the way. We're not going to rank them or something like that. Let's be honest. Given where they're at with things, how would you characterize them right now, Chuck? Or are they hard to really kind of pin down as to what they are?
Well, I think for them, first of all, really, really kind of savor this. This is a special win. It's an obstacle they have not been able to get through for a long time. We talked about it right off the bat. They haven't beaten Grand Valley since 2012. So, sometimes we really do kind of play this out. That's what we're here for. We play this out through playoffs and all that stuff, and we don't always live in the moment. I hope they had a chance to live in the moment yesterday and really revel in a tremendous victory, one of the biggest that they have had in a long time. But to your point, Whit, the automatic bids do change the way we look at some of these teams. In the past, we probably would have already dismissed Saginaw. Even with this win, we possibly would have dismissed them as a playoff contender. But now, because the conference champions do get that automatic bid, they're very much in this, right? They're undefeated in GLIAC play. If they could somehow find a way to get by Ferris, and they have played Ferris really tight several times in the last couple of years. So that opportunity is going to be there for them. So, yeah, there's a lot to be excited about if you're Saginaw, especially looking at the start of the season. You're losing to Northwood, and even the New Haven game, it doesn't count. I thought they possibly could have won that game. So, the start of their season didn't really go the way they had hoped it would. So to come back and get this win and all of a sudden feel like all of your goals that you had at the start of the year are still in front of you, it's a great place for them to be.
Coach Poe, I'm going to come to you, guy an offensive coach. You watch a guy like Mason McKenzie. It makes me, we've got guys that we talk about. Every conference has an athletic quarterback like this that is not defined by their passing yards. And you take a look here, McKenzie over 100 rush yards and a touchdown. You can see he made a game-breaking play there. Coaches, it feels like we have this ongoing evolution of what the quarterback position looks like, where it's not just how good a passer are you. How many different quarterbacks are we looking at? You look at Ferris right now, and you look at some of these other squads. Yep. Do you think that this is something that it's almost like the traditional passer is almost going to slowly become a thing of the past, or how do you see it?
I do. I think you look at a guy like Mason McKenzie, who has great pocket awareness, can throw the football around the field. He really is comfortable in the pocket. But what makes him so dynamic is he's not afraid to pull the football down. He's quick enough to break tackles. He's tough. He can make plays with his feet. He can extend plays with his feet. And that's really what you want. And we're seeing more and more of those quarterbacks in today's game of football. So in my opinion, you look at a guy like Mason McKenzie, who goes out there and is 11 for 25, throws for 131 yards, and then rushes for another over 100 yards. Yeah, that just builds his confidence against a tough defense like we see with Grand Valley. So, for a kid like that, that's huge. That builds that confidence. You're going to see him, continue to extend those plays with his feet and continue making plays. And that position is just evolving in front of us. And we've seen it. And I feel like we talk about this every week with there's the next guy stepping up and the next guy doing what we just talked about, both running and throwing the football.
Sure. Well, Chuck, we're going to move on ahead. That was sorry, Tony, I had to get another look at that.
Yeah.
Hey, Tony, will you drop in the comments to who does your hair? If anybody's out there, and,
We're not saying it doesn't look good here, but it looked real good there.
yeah, it did.
All
Yeah,
right,
it did.
well, let's.
That is all. It's all me, fellas.
Well, we'll. I don't even have a transition. We're just going to go to the next game. We will
I'm thankful you don't.
We're gonna have a show. We're gonna have a show on men's grooming Thursday.
A new
We'll
sponsor.
go to the Gulf South Conference where we had a top 15 matchup. I think we all expected this to be a really close game. And we had West Florida kind of pulling this out at the very end. This is a really tight game through most of the way. Whit, if you want to roll the highlights that we have, we can kind of just tag team here on what you got. And then I know a lot of us had eyes on this. I'll be real honest with you, Whit. By the time I got to this, I already knew the outcome by the time I watched this game. I thought West Florida was going to have to win this game 6-0. That was their first touchdown of the day. Missed the extra point, and it was 6-0 for a long time. And then they finally get the second score. Whit, did you think West Florida had the game at hand right here when they got that second touchdown?
Yeah, not to mention they blew a chance earlier in the game where they would have been up 3 scores, Chuck.
Yeah, and so they penalized themselves out of position a lot, and so that created opportunities for West Florida to stay or West Alabama to stay in the game. We just saw the long touchdown. They finally get on the board, and now you're on a tight tussle here in the fourth quarter. And Spencer Arsenault, guys, just doing what he does. We talked about, with Coach Poe there, the modern generation of quarterback, your impact is not just in your passing stats. Well, Arsenault is one of those guys that just makes plays in tons and tons of different ways. He actually gets a little bit of a rally there. West Al takes the lead. We didn't see the full drive here, but that was the final score of the day. Stokes throws a bullet there. And then, of course, the game is going to end right here. Arsenault kind of rushed to throw. He didn't really have to, and it gets picked off. But Whit, I think the part that really stands out to me, we saw the touchdown there from Stokes. That drive was very impressive because they had kind of at that point possibly let the game slip away from them. And I thought West Florida was the better team in this game. They made a lot of mistakes, a lot of penalties, a lot of mistakes, so they kind of took themselves out of scoring position. So despite all that, when West Al got the lead, and it's pretty obvious you're down to one possession because I think it was about 3 minutes left when West Al took the lead there. So it's pretty obvious they were down to their last possession. The Argos really pulled together and went on an impressive drive and scored the last minute of the game. I did think that was impressive considering that they'd sputtered a little bit in the second half. They had opportunities that they squandered. That was their last chance. They went down the field and they scored and they won the game. So I do think that was an impressive drive to go win that.
I'm watching it, Chuck, and I'm thinking to myself, West Florida needs to go ahead and drive down the field and kind of prove that they have been the better team tonight. Because I felt that they were clearly. They had over 37 minutes of time possession. West Al had 64 yards of offense at half. Arsenault was 3 of 9 passing at that point. Arsenault makes some plays, but kind of like we saw with Mason McKenzie on the previous slide, he gave a few up also. And the one at the end I thought was pretty costly on a first down play where they're at midfield right there with a chance to tie it on.
They had time. They had time and they had snaps. He didn't have to be desperate there, and that was kind of a shame that it ended their last opportunity.
But two things I walk away from this with, Chuck, and I realize it's one game between the teams, but I think that West Florida's defense is better, and I also think that West Florida is a little more complete. Offensively, they can run the ball, but they can be dynamic in the passing game. Now, Ferg, you're shaking your head yes. And this isn't just the fantasy football side of Ferg. But, Ferg, I know that you pay attention to this squad because you know that they have some dynamic playmakers.
Yeah, that's kind of been their identity. And I think that was sort of the question, was the defense going into the season. But we know that they had the pieces on offense to pull it all together. And I see 458 yards of total offense and not seeing a higher score, kind of makes you question some intangibles. They got some things they still need to clean up. Kind of like what you mentioned, the penalties in particular. So there's still work to be done here. They should have ran West Al off the field, and they didn't, and let them hang around, and that's not what you want out of your offense either.
Tony, I feel like there's times where we've seen West Florida's ceiling, but there's been also a lot of times where we kind of just see them play with their food sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard for us to. Do we feel like they're a number 4 team all the time? Moments during this year, yes. Now this was a nice win for them on the road, but I mean, these are the kind of wins that they're going to have if they're going to be a top 5 team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think, when we talked last week and we were picking this one, we kind of felt like it was more West Florida's ability to defend that was really going to be the difference in this game. And yeah, I mean, Spencer Arsenault had 272, but I don't think he was particularly efficient in getting there. They turned him over a couple of times. I really feel like it was West Florida's defense that made the difference in this game. But now you have to sit and ask yourself too, okay, how potent really is West Al's offense? I mean, it's one of those things where I don't know how deep outside of the region West Florida would really get. And so back to your original question, does that make them a top 5 team? I think that's the question that's really there is, can they defend somebody, like a Ferris, like a Harding, like some of the teams in the Northern Sun we see that are more physical. That really would be the question of why would they be worthy of a top 5 slot? And I don't know if they'd be able to, how well they would fare in those situations.
Coach Poe, we've been once again talking about some of the quarterback play. It just feels right now, though, that maybe West Florida is maybe kind of a chapter ahead in the book in terms of some of the things that they can do offensively, and it looks like that Marcus Stokes has kind of taken that next step. Is that kind of how you see it, Poe?
It is. I mean, I thought he played really well. And when I look at that stat box, I look at a team that didn't finish drives in West Florida, guys.
Right.
They won the time of possession, 37 minutes time of possession. They 26 first downs. That 13 penalties for 86 yards, but 13 penalties are drive killers. They were 5 for 13 on third down, right? So those are all things I'm looking at that saying 458 yards of offense. You dominate the time of possession, but you just didn't finish drives, and you left. And West Alabama, they hung around, and they got themselves a chance in the fourth quarter to go win the football game against a team that outplayed them, I would say, but for most of the football game. So I think it was a telling game. I think for West Florida, it was a little bit of a wake-up call, because you talk about, hey, you're a top 4 team or a top 5 team. Well, hey, you didn't prove that. You didn't go out there and play that way, and you didn't finish drives. And that's telling for me. If you're West Alabama, you got to put this one behind you, right? This was a good team. It's a top 5 team in the country. You played well. Now you just got to come back out and you got to have short-term memory, guys, because hey, they played Delta State at home this week at homecoming. So
right.
It's a very quick turn because we waited a long time to get into Gulf South play, and we're here. So both these teams kind of have to put this one behind us, learn from it. I think to your point, Spencer Arsenault, he rushed that throw. He had a little pressure off his left side. He should have stepped up and thrown that football away, giving him a 2nd down and 10 there to see what he can do. I would have been curious to see if he had opportunity to work the field. Would they have had a chance, take the lead and win the thing? So, but you got to have short-term memory, guys. You got to get back to it because, like everybody right now, you're in the throw of conference play, and you can't let this one beat you in the next one.
Well, it kind of feels like, and for those who are thinking, we haven't heard a lot on our shows here about the teams in the Gulf South Conference. Well,
yeah,
we've mentioned them when they've had more higher profile games, which has kind of been here and there. Now that they're in conference play, we're going to be talking about them every week, because these are 4 teams that are all top 25 mentionable. Valdosta is the only one that's kind of fallen off, and we'll see how they do in conference play.
No doubt. And of course, we are here to overanalyze and nitpick, but at the end of the day, West Florida gets a road win against a really quality West Alabama football team. So you take that any way you can get it. So congrats to the Argos. So one more spotlight game to go through, and then we'll kind of go around the country and look at a bunch of other results. So we'll go to the PSAC West, which has just been God knows what this year. We've got everything going on in that division. And we had IUP going to Slippery Rock's homecoming. It is interesting how frequently those two actually do schedule each other for homecoming. And, that's kind of one of those high risk, high reward things to do that. certainly turned out to be a great day for Slippery Rock. There's some of the evidence. Over 10,000 in attendance on what was probably the most beautiful October day I've ever had for football
Fantastic.
in Pennsylvania.
That's a great D2 crowd there. I love it.
Darn right.
It was awesome. Kind of just funny how many people you could just overhear conversations. How many people saying, "Can you believe we're wearing shorts in October? This is normally the time of year that people are getting out their hunting gear to wear to football games here in Pennsylvania, and there's still people in shorts and flip flops." So yeah, over 10,000 attendance, standing room only. Wonderful, wonderful day. It is a beautiful place to go to a game if you ever get the chance to do it. And of course, the folks there at the Rock always take really good care of us. They're excellent hosts, and I got to meet a lot of great people who watch the show, a lot of people who consume all the various content we do. That's always a blast for me to interact with people. So if you saw me and said hello, thank you very much. I always appreciate that. It was a pleasure to meet you and get to have a quick conversation. So with that, Whit, let's kind of roll the highlights that you were able to pull together, and then we'll kind of talk overall reactions to the game itself.
Yeah, I'll let you talk your way through some of the observations, buddy.
Well, and I will say, we'll just kind of let that roll, and I'll just kind of give my overall observations. I considered IUP the favorite coming into this game. I thought this was a day that they should have been the better team and won the game. And it simply did not turn out that way. They were outplayed. They were out-hustled to an extent. They were out-coached. And the Rock minimized mistakes, and IUP did not. A couple of things that really stood out to me. First drive of the game, IUP plays bully ball right down the field with the running game, and they score. And I thought, oh boy, this could be a long day for the Rock if they're not going to be able to stop that running game. Well, after that first drive, the Rock defense guys really stood tall. And I know that they gave up well over 300 yards and 27 points, but the Slippery Rock defense won this football game. They really stood tall. What they started to have a really good effect in the game with was pressure on Matthew Reevy. And this kind of went back to the Ashland game where we saw that the Ashland defense is very physical up front. Slippery Rock, I think, is actually not quite even as physical as Ashland is, just because of some injuries and some depth concerns that they have. They really stood tall. They played physical. They played fast. They were very aggressive in how they were getting pressure on Matthew Reevy. And what they were able to do was put IUP behind schedule a lot. When IUP was able to stay ahead of the sticks and use the run game, they could move the football. Because of sacks and penalties and any other types of mistakes that IUP felt like making, they ran a ton of snaps from behind the sticks, and they did not have the ability to get themselves out of those situations. When that happened, Slippery Rock would just dial up more pressure. They were getting really creative on that, get more sacks, force more negative yardage plays, and just kept extending the game for their own offense to hit its rhythm. So major props. I know they were down 10 points at the half, but some of that was a little bit of luck for IUP, a couple of trick plays that they pulled off, or a couple of lucky plays, a muffed punt that gave them 3 points. Overall, Slippery Rock just soundly outplayed them, I thought. And this will be a tough one for IUP to take, because I do think they should have been the better team, and they just were not able to prove that they were. So here's the thing, though, for IUP. They still have a full game lead on the Rock in the division, because remember, Slippery Rock has 2 losses in PSAC West play. So IUP can really make this right if they come back and beat California this coming week. So, Poe, you just talked about, you got to put this behind you really fast. IUP has to put this behind them really fast. And if they can still go do everything they want to do this year. This will be a tough one to take, and a great, great performance from Slippery Rock, who at times was a bit outmanned. But both teams can still get where they want to go if they kind of learn from the mistakes that were made over the past couple of weeks. But yeah, that Slippery Rock defense really kind of took its lumps against Cal and Gannon. Major props to them. They stood tall and won this game for their team.
You know what, Chuck? When I'm looking at this here, it almost feels like we've got, whether it's Cal, whether it's Slippery Rock, whether it's IUP, it's like everyone who's not Kutztown right now, there's kind of a next level right now with a bunch of teams that all feel like, Chuck, in some way, shape, or form, they're all about the same. And it almost, do you have any concerns, Chuck, that you only get maybe one PSAC team in if they keep beating up on each other like this?
Well, certainly you have the risk of running fewer, especially when you look at the CIAA is in Super Region 1, and that's going to be a multi-bid league this year for sure.
Yeah.
They're going to have 2 teams in. I'm very confident of that, maybe even 3, depending on how things shake out. Pretty sure the Northeast 10 and the Mountain East are going to be 1-bid leagues, just looking at how that plays out with. So I think there's still likely to be an imbalance of, a cluster of PSAC teams that will make that part of the bracket. But you're right. The overall point right now is you've kind of have a Kutztown and then a group of everybody else. But we'll see. I mean, Kutztown hasn't really been pushed for a while. Their toughest opponent season to date probably was Assumption all the way back in week 0, and Assumption hasn't lost since then. So we really haven't seen Kutztown tested since that point in time either.
Fair enough.
All right. Let's kind of move into a recap from around the region. So we spent a lot of time going through those first couple games. Let's go around the region a little bit. Tony, we're going to go back to the GLIAC because there were a couple of really interesting results there.
Yeah.
Michigan Tech having a really good season here, but things kind of unraveled a little bit against the Bulldogs.
Yeah, and I want to say that Michigan Tech's defense, especially in the first half, acquitted itself really well because their offense turned the ball over to the Bulldogs 5 times in a single half. And yet it was still only a 21-3 game at the break. Ferris returned one of those picks for a touchdown, used another short field for a touchdown. So really, you're used to Ferris going in and just dominating offensively. They really only had one really lengthy drive in that first half, and the Tech defense really kept things close. But like we talked about, when teams that can run the ball effectively, they'll tend to do that, and they just Ferris just kind of leaned on Tech in the second half and was able to stretch it out. So, by the end of the game, it still kind of looked like a normal Ferris outing, 400-plus yards of offense. Wyatt Bauer figured into all 4 of the offensive touchdowns for the Bulldogs, 3 through the air, 1 on the ground. But, like I say, for a half or so, if Tech had been able to move the ball at all and not give the ball away and keep giving the Bulldogs short fields, I would have loved to have seen just how interesting that second half could have been.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next one because Ferris beating Tech and Saginaw beating Grand Valley, all well and good. The major news of the weekend in the GLIAC and around Division 2. I have waited all season, plus going back to last year, to say this. Northern Michigan wins. They get a great win at Roosevelt. Tony, we've seen this coming. I want to get some of your reaction, but they've been building up to this. This has been coming for a while. I was thrilled to see not just that they won, but tell us a little bit about how they won this game.
Well, they won it by being strictly who they were, right? They are running the option, and they stuck to it. They got Austin Rydell back at quarterback. I think that helped, having one of their main guys being able to be in there and run the offense. But they had 538 yards of total offense against Roosevelt in this game, and every single one of those yards was on the ground. Jahai Wood, 230 plus. Noah Dobert, 240 plus. So, it's like they basically only had 3 ball carriers in the whole game. Dobert, Wood, and Riddle, and that was it. They just basically stuck to exactly what they do, exactly who they are, and they just ground one out over Roosevelt, who's having a rough go themselves this year, and it could be a long season down there in Chicago for those guys. But and this is one of those games where you're hoping somebody gets off the schneid. And for the Wildcats who haven't done it in about 2.5 seasons, I was really happy for them.
Yeah, and I was happy that it was a conference win, right? Roosevelt's not very good, but it's not like Northern beat one of those hapless, unaffiliated teams. This is a conference game, so major props to them. 0 passing yards, over 500 school record on the ground.
Yep.
Thrilled to see it. Congrats, Wildcats. You have earned it. And then over on the other side, K-Ferg, we have made light several times the last couple of years of teams coming into the top 25 for the first time during the year, ranked number 25, and it's a kiss of death, and they go right back out of the pool. Not the case for Southern Arkansas. They were 25 this past week. Dominant performance. What a win for them.
Yeah, the fact that it's Arkansas Tech, that they've had some impressive showings of their own, means that this wasn't just any opponent, and they're sort of keeping pace in the GAC now. As they continue to think about, are they going to be a 2-bid or league at this point? So, congrats to the Mule Riders.
Yep, Big win for them. All right. Where are we going to next? We'll go back to the MIW, actually, to the MIW for the first time tonight. Man, Whit, 52-3 over a good Fort Hays team. I mean, we've been talking about it. Northwest is coming, but wow.
Yeah, and they decided to start Zechariah Owens, the quarterback we saw a week ago, who can really move. And he rushes for over 160 yards, 2 scores. They go ahead and they move. They use both quarterbacks, both Owens and Chris Runke, and they also had 5 sacks in this game, and really made Fort Hays look bad in this football game. And Bearcats rushed for over 400 yards in this game. I don't know who this team is right now. I mean, I mean, they're right now. What they're doing is just wild, and I mean, you almost just want to fast forward right to the end of the season when they play Pitt at this point. But if you're them, boy, how do you keep this up and not have some type of letdown along the way? I'm sure John Dykstra is throwing something at his computer right now as I say that. But I mean, to say that this is an impressive win would be an understatement. This is one of the best wins by a Division II football team this year. When you consider the fact that this Fort Hays team still had the starting quarterback, and we're looking at a team that's top 25 for most of the year, and they did this to them. Shocking.
Yeah. All right. Congrats to them. Huge win. So we'll go to the Lone Star. Whit, did you see this coming with Permian Basin? I know coming off a tough loss with Central Washington, and then you have to go up there to Oregon, road game, very different type of environment, grass field that probably have players that haven't played on grass since they were 8 years old. But I didn't really see this one coming, even though Western Oregon is very quietly having a good season. Was this on your radar?
As some people know, there's certain coaches that we chat with during the season, and I know Chris McCullough fairly well, and I kind of said to him, how you doing after your loss last week? And he said, you know what, we're pretty banged up, physical football game, and we've talked about how this happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, quarterbacks kind of hobbled a bit and not as full self, and you're going and playing there on the grass out at Western Oregon, a place that's never easy to win. And there's been plenty of other teams who have had challenges like this. Western Oregon pulls off the win here. Late UTPB went up. I thought, okay, UTPB is going to get out of the fire here, and then Western Oregon marched down and scored. And kudos to them. And UTPB, I don't think is out of things yet. They've got 2 losses. They've still got a good strength of schedule. And then on the other side, Chuck, this was a weird one. This was the nightcap. And for those who watch D2 football very closely, like the nerds on this show, the Central Washington finishes up sometimes after midnight out east, and pretty late for me in the Central as well. And they were down in this game in the third quarter.
Yes, they were.
To Kingsville. My phone was blowing up. And they put the hammer down and said, we're going to go ahead and run quarterback left and run quarterback right and play power. And they were able to get things done. And Chuck, we have a quick little video kind of blurb we're going to show. Kennedy McGill, for those who aren't familiar, quarterback from Central Washington. He is a run-first quarterback, and he's a big fella who, I don't know if he's even that big, but he plays big. And he had a run late where, let's say he didn't get tackled, but we're going to get a chance to let their radio crew go ahead and tell us about the action. Then we'll be right back.
Looking pretty good here. Kingsville needs a big play here to get them out of the red zone.
Empty backfield for McGill. He's got a man in motion heading out right, and he's going to pull him into a trap. That'll see McGill just send a man. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Let the man live. It's another Kennedy McGill rushing touchdown.
So
the West Coast Rex Nelson on the call there.
Jeez, I suppose.
Exactly. So for those who haven't been able to catch any of their games, that's what you're missing. But you know what? They fought through it. Central did, and still stay undefeated in D2 competition, and that's where they needed to be.
All right, well, let's move it back to the East Coast. So, Justin, when we did the picks last week, I think a lot of us still went with UNCP, but we talked about this being one of those spots where North Greenville tends to rise up.
Yeah,
and they did actually get a really good win. Talk about that one.
Yeah, it was a game that when we talked about it and when we picked it, you could have went either way with it, right? North Greenville at home, tough place to play, did a great job. Went out there, I see you, Whit. Went out there and handled business against a tough UNCP team. We talked about it. They're gonna get their wins. They just do it every year. They knock a team off. This is a game I'm not so sure we're not going to see here in a couple weeks again, Chuck, in the conference championship game for Conference Carolinas. And that one, again, flip a coin, because I guarantee you what we see here, the 20-7 win for North Greenville, will not be the same case in that game there. I mean, it's going to be just an absolute slugfest between these two teams. So North
And
Greenville got round one. Go ahead.
And remember what we talked about earlier, Poe, with the automatic bids to the playoffs. North Greenville had a couple of really close losses to the really good GSC teams.
Right.
They're still very much in the hunt here for playoffs because they're now kind of in the driver's seat in Conference Carolinas.
right.
Absolutely are, right? You go out there and win that, it just gives you a lot of confidence, I think, if you're North Greenville, to go in there and, basically everything is in front of you you just got to, not take your foot off the gas, but to get to the conference championship and win that game, I think gives you a lot of confidence regardless of who you play in that game. It gives you a lot of confidence to get there and do well and get that automatic bid. And then who knows what happens after that.
And then on the other side, Carson Newman proving once again that we have no idea who the best teams in the SAC are. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But Carson Newman with a win against Anderson, who was coming off a great one. So on to the next round. So the game there on the left, Kentucky State and Franklin Pierce, was supposed to be played in Puerto Rico, I believe. They actually moved that to Rindge, New Hampshire, almost the same kind of place, similar vibe. I believe they said it was the first time ever that an HBCU played a college football game in the state of New Hampshire. I find that believable just because there isn't a whole lot of college football up there in New Hampshire. I, for some reason, was watching this game on Friday night, and I felt it was, I needed to give Whit the play-by-play through text message. I'm sure he appreciated that. Kentucky State battles through and earns a win. I think things could have been different if Adrian Parker had played for Franklin Pierce. Thoroughbreds get the win. And then over on the other side, Ferg, Benedict, and Edward Waters, I think we got everything we expected there based on that final score.
Yeah, I mean, it was, there was a lot of reasons to pick Edward Waters, but in the end, as we said last week, Benedict is a team that finds a way to win in many different ways, and they found it again on the road. So, major kudos to them.
All right, and then into the GAC. So, Whit, I know you had some eyes on this a little bit. Weather impacted this one quite a bit early in the game, if I recall.
Yeah, they had two delays in this game. I think elapsed time they were hanging around on the yard for about 6 hours or so. And Harding this was a game that was close at half. It was like 7-3 or something like that. And then in the third quarter, Harding kind of took off, had 21 points in that third quarter. They were also able to turn over Henderson State 4 or 5 times in that contest. And most of them were through fumbles because it was just a drenched field. And let's be honest. I mean, Harding, there's no way around it that they are going to play better in these kind of situations where we're in rain.
For sure. And our old friend Armo coming in with the question to throw some shade at Ferg. I guess there were some major fantasy implications here.
Yeah, 298 yards.
Yeah, so okay, so most of the time I've been starting him, right? But Braden J is the one who gets a lot of the yardage. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to exchange it for Wyatt Block, and Block's performance was not bad. It was a good performance. That's about what Andrew Miller does.
It wasn't a school record, though.
but it wasn't a school record, right? And my understanding of this game was they were intent on stopping Braden J, and that just allowed the floodgates, no pun intended, to open for Andrew Miller for this type of game. I mean, congrats to him, but man, that was painful to see that on bench.
All right, let's try to spin through a few of these a little bit more rapid fire. Poe, back to the sack once again. You're kind of making that point. We still have no idea who the best team is in the sack, but we have two teams there. They're making a good point.
Yeah, really are. Wingate, big win on the road, and Newberry winning at home against Mars Hill. Tough place to play if you're Mars Hill. Nice win for Newberry. Great matchup this weekend. Newberry, Emory, and Henry. I'm sure we'll talk about it here later, but yeah, really big games coming up in the sack.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't really talked a whole lot about Newberry, but another team that is very quietly having a really good season. All right, Whit, let's move us on to Northeast 10 and the Mountain East. So go to SR1. Yeah, really been trending towards Assumption, kind of taking ownership of the Northeast 10. They have won 5 in a row since the season opening loss at Kutztown. Really starting to feel like that is their league to lose at this point, and I don't think they're going to lose it. So a huge win there over a post team that's playing good ball early in the season. And Frostburg State in triple OT wins at Charleston. Happy for the Bobcats. They really needed to win a game like this. They've won a lot of games over the last couple of years, but this is the type of game that hadn't quite been able to get, especially last year. So big win for them, and they now are alone in first place in the Mountain East Conference standings. So great win for the Bobcats. And then MIAA, hey, Whit, it looked like the weather was a bit gnarly, but I did not have Missouri Southern upsetting Nebraska Kearney on my bingo card.
Right?
Well, yeah, and without Isaiah Harris, their star running back, who was near the top of the charts in just about everything a few weeks ago, their offense takes a little bit of a hit there, and we were kind of wondering about some of that. We still thought that, Kearney, John and I both did, that Kearney would have enough. But Southern, they got a young quarterback. They've got some guys at skill positions. And, they've kind of been knocking at the door, and this is a big win for them here. And on the other side, Missouri Western is winless in conference, 1 win overall in the season. And Pitt State kind of was a little playing with their food a little bit in this one too, but then kind of took off in the back half of that game. And at this point, if you're Pitt State, you're just trying to win out. You're not worried about how you're getting there, probably.
No doubt. All right. Don't believe we've talked about the RMAC tonight. New Mexico Highlands gets a win over Mesa. Sorry to our guy AC, but Highlands, they had that really great start to the year, and this is a really quality win for them. So congrats to the Cowboys.
Yep.
And then back into your secondary territory, Whit. Man, Central Oak, it's been ups and downs, but a really impressive win here over Emporia.
Yeah, with Jet Huff back, they're kind of on a little bit of a surge lately, and he threw for over 400 yards in this contest. And boy, you start to see some of those things, and you have to think, what if he had been healthy all year? Would he be a guy that would be leading that conversation, for the Harlan Hill? And Emporia State, I thought they would be able to punch back in this game, and Central was able to kind of have their way with them. So, you got a Central Oak team that's got 3 losses. They've got the hardest part of their schedule easily gone. They may end up sitting there at 8-3 if they were to keep this up by the end of the year. Maybe are they on the outside looking in for potentially getting a playoff spot? I'm sure that's what they're hoping for, but they're still worth keeping an eye on, I would say.
All right, and maybe I think it was probably one of the more surprising results. We had the Ichabods getting a big win for them and their first-year head coach over UCM. Yeah,
and this one, 8 turnovers, I think it was from UCM. Yeah, and
hard to win doing that.
Yeah, Molo had 5 picks, the quarterback for Central. And just when we kind of thought they may be trending in the right direction, that kind of game kind of stops you in your tracks. We'll have to see what Central looks like the rest of the way.
All right. And then we will kind of bring this segment to a close. Cal escapes a win over an inspired Clarion team. Of course, we've talked about Clarion. They've having a great season. Cal actually scored with a long touchdown pass with about 11 seconds left. I think it wasn't quite a Hail Mary, but almost. They pull one out of the fire and keep their season on track with a 31-28 win at home over the Golden Eagles. And then we'll kind of bring this segment to a close. There's our guy, K. Ferg, at homecoming at Bowman Gray. Chris, I think my question would be, there was something like 16,000 people there in Bowman Gray for the stadium. How did they end up picking a photograph that doesn't have anybody in it for the infographic
there? Because Winston fans can be like they're in Miami and they don't start filling up the stadium until like the second or third quarter. That was.
Fall break. It was fall break on campus. That's your answer.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
It was fall break. Yeah. The students were all home.
Yeah, it was an amazing atmosphere. It's the largest crowd they've had for homecoming in something like 10 years. And, very surprising. But, Winston actually rushed for over 300 yards in this game. And I had a coach that came and said, stop telling people on TV that we can't run the ball. And he showed it. They showed it on Saturday. So it was quite a game. Also, it was hot. I'm still dehydrated right now. Still got my water trying to get back right. But it was a great game. It's a great atmosphere.
All right. Well, glad you had a big day in one of D2 football's more unique venues. So very good to see. So we'll go from that before we start looking at the picks for this coming week and the games of interest. Of course, we need to check in with our friends at Bosses. Whit, what is on the menu this week?
Yeah. So, obviously, if first off, if anyone has interest in Boss's Pizza and Chicken and becoming a franchisee, go take a look at their website. We are here to kind of help promote them in that process. Now, people tune in for just this segment right here. Ferg, we've got, hand breaded tenders on one side. Ferg, I know you've been kind of trying to eat a little bit better lately, been doing the workout thing and all that stuff. Salad on the other side. Which way are you leaning these days, Ferg?
Well, because you said hand breaded, that means that the tenders are fresh. And I'm always down for a fresh tender. Okay. So give me the tenders all day. We'll take the calories.
Fair enough. Just a little more time on the treadmill then.
That's right.
Now let's
fresh, not frozen.
Yeah, fresh, never frozen. And then we would be remiss if we didn't mention that you can bundle and save with Bosses. Now, I mean, this is something right up my alley, guys. If I want to go ahead and have pizza, but also have wings, because I mean that's a great thing in itself, and not to mention wash it down with a little bit of the brownie bites. I mean, you can have it all right here for $35. Give them a nice tip, a little bit of delivery. And I mean, you're living like a king right there. Now, am I the only guy who thinks that way, Poe? I know that you're a guy, Poe, who likes some pizza and stuff like this. Would the wife give you a hard time if you decided to make an evening of it like this?
Not a chance. Not a chance. She may not partake, but she would absolutely be like, that has me written all over it. So. But hey, it is what it is. I'll invite 4 of my best friends over, and we'll sit down and eat a couple of these.
Yes. Now, and by the way, Chip asked, does Boss have a Philly pizza? Boss has at least 30 types of pizzas. I'm sure that a Philly one would be in that mix. I don't seek it out myself, but it's a fair question to ask, Chip. Boss is getting inquiries in the comments, Chuck. That's where we've gotten with this show.
Hey, that's what we're here for. All right, but we will move on from that. We'll talk pizza again next week. But let's go to the games of interest, or sort of the undercard as we used to know it, and then we'll recap last week's picks for some reason, and then make the picks for the coming week. So looking at this, Poe, what game here kind of jumps out to you that you might have your eyes on?
Yeah, for me in my end of the world where I spent a lot of time, that North Greenville Valdosta game, I think is a telling game for me at least. North Greenville big win this week. Can they keep that going this week at Valdosta, or does Valdosta just overpower them and kind of take away the momentum that North Greenville got by beating a good UNCP team? So that game's kind of piqued my interest a little bit. I think this is a must-win game for Valdosta State. But for North Greenville, just can they keep it going and keep building on what they've done?
All right. Tony, anything here kind of pique your interest?
Well, I actually am really interested in up there in Witt's territory. I'd like to see what Jack Strand does to keep that run going for the Dragons at Northern State, who's playing some pretty good football these days.
Right.
And then also after seeing Northeastern State knock off Saginaw Valley to start the season, they've rattled it together now. I had a couple of losses in there, but now they got a winning record. And, all right, does UCO keep it going? There are actually a lot of very interesting games here on this undercard.
I agree. I think there's some pretty colorful games when we take a look. And I think Colorado Mines, do we give them a bit of a puncher's chance against a Western State team who, Western State hasn't faced, the Murderers Row so far. And does Mines have enough to go ahead and give them a real scare, maybe win there, guys? What do you think?
I don't know, but I'm thinking that I have the same questions about West Texas and Permian Basin, Whit.
Sure.
A lot of ups and
Yeah.
downs for the Buffs this year, but we know Permian Basin's a bit wounded right now, and West
Right.
Texas is making some progress. I have some of the same questions about that game.
Well, Chuck, you'll recall a week ago I said each week on this display, there's at least one upset. Last week, Saginaw over Grand Valley was the team. I have a feeling we're going to have more than one if we revisit this a week from now.
Possibly so. I would say if Winston-Salem State could run the football, I'd give them a chance against the Golden Bulls, but I don't know.
Ferg, you're itching. What do you got, buddy?
I keep hearing that they can't run the ball.
Wow.
I just want to say that whoever selected these games really had me in mind, and I appreciate that, between Winston, WT, and Valdosta. So this is the K-Ferg week. This is going really well, or this is going really horribly. So we're going to see. I'm glad we're not picking these games because I know that could go really bad for me. But yeah, I just want to mention though that the Northeastern State and UCO game, I think, was the last year? That was a really high-scoring game, and Northeastern State has, been pretty decent this year. So that one, I think, is something worth watching as well. I mean, these are all really great games in their own right.
Yeah,
no doubt. All right, well, Whit, I guess we could recap last week's picks. I don't really see a reason to do that, but
how did this get in there? I don't know how that got in there, Chuck. I'm sorry. We'll get back to where your regular scheduled programming there.
Just go on.
I can appreciate the moment of silence here. I mean, this is
yeah. We had a couple teams that didn't quite come through for us. Obviously, our apologies to Frostburg State. That was the one that we all picked on the losing side of that, and the Bobcats got that one, so we have to own that and acknowledge it. But
good job, Frosty.
And went contrary against us with North Greenville at the very end. I told you guys, you let him pick last, and he finds a way to sink us.
Yeah, he was 2-1 doing that nonsense last week. So
he got that one. He got the Wingate one too. The Edward Waters one went against him. But I think we could have a similar scenario this week because I think there's a lot of really close games to call. Whit, let's kind of roll through these and make our selections.
This could be the toughest week yet, guys. We start off Ashland at Tiffin. Huge game in the GMAC. So as we're starting off here, Tony, I'm going last. I mean, it doesn't matter. You guys know I'm going to do good no matter when I pick. So we're going to go Ashland, Tiffin. What do you got here, buddy?
I still think Ashland is the better team. I think they're more physical. I think they've been more consistent this year. Everything's telling me to pick Ashland. Give me Tiffin.
Tiffin.
Ooh.
Ferg, are you going Tiffin as well?
No, I'm going Ashland. I'm not even doing that. I don't
even.
want to feel. I don't want to feel the wrath of the X machine when they
I've picked
win.
Ashland a bunch of times this year. That's strictly a hunch. And if they feel like they got to yell at me for being wrong about a hunch, that's cool.
Nah, I believe in Ashland. I'm a little concerned, like with Tiffin, if they playing some of the upper teams, and that's going to slow their offense down, and that seems like something Ashland can do. So.
I think we like that Tiffin's ceiling, that's for sure. But I think we saw that at times against Ferris. But Coach Poe, who do you have in this daggum game?
I'm gonna take Ashland. I'm not brave enough like Tony to flip it. I'm gonna take Ashland.
Fair enough. Chuck, which direction are you going, buddy?
Yeah, this is one I really wish I had a little bit more time to look at some specific matchups, because I do think Tiffin's offense can cause a few mismatch issues for what I think is a very, very good Ashland defense. But my gut says Ashland is a slightly better football team here, so I'm going to go with the Eagles.
I feel like Tiffin can be more explosive, but I like Ashland for all. I like a lot of what Tony said right there. So I'm taking Ashland and I know he went with Tiffin, but I liked his reasoning for Ashland. So Delta State against West Al. West Al just coming off a loss at home. Another home game here. They got Delta State. Tony, I'm starting with you.
So I just gave you all the reasons of why I thought a road team would be the better team, and I took the home team, Delta State.
Okay. Ferg, does West Al run the risk of kind of having that really emotional, physical game and having going right back and having another one right on the heels of it? What do you think?
I mean, I think so, but what I kind of observed this year in general is that teams have really been stepping up at homecoming, and that's what this game is. I don't know who decides to schedule Delta for homecoming, but hey, here we are. So I'm going to go with West Al to redeem themselves this week. I'm not I mean, Delta State is not going to be the offensive juggernaut that West Florida is, and I think
That's
that
fair.
may give them a little bit better of a chance in this game at home.
Okay. Coach Poe, this is your world, buddy. What do you got?
Man, so when you look at Delta, right? Like they lost a couple weeks ago on the road at Pembroke, and since then they've played Erskine, Barton, and Ferrum, right? This is their toughest game in probably the last 3 weeks, and they've got West Al, they go West Florida, then they go Valdosta. So this is the first of the 3 big games for them. I say all that to say I think it's very unimaginable to think West Alabama is going to lose 2 in a row at home. I just don't know that. I don't know that I see that happening. But there's a gut feeling here. Give me Delta State in this one, guys. I don't know what it is. I think they're primed. I think they've learned from that loss, and I think they're going to give West Alabama all they can handle. But this should be a shootout.
Fair enough. Coach Poe trying to get back to the 500 mark this season. Chuck, what do you got here, buddy?
Well, I can easily see this one going either way. I'm a little concerned that Delta State is still not fully resolved at the quarterback position, and I don't like that going up against a defense at West Al that I think is very, very good. So I am going to go with the Tigers in this one.
I feel like this is totally a coin flip game. I don't think any of us would be surprised if Delta won. I'm going to go with West Al here. I feel like they got a rebound, and they will feel like they have their back against the wall and need to do so. I'm taking West Al. Albany State and Benedict. Big game. Tony, which direction are you going, buddy?
Man, I ride with the Tigers, my friend. Benedict always treats me right. I'm sticking with him.
Everybody loves Benedict. I don't love Benedict, but we'll get to that. Ferg, which direction are you going?
If Isaiah Knowles is playing for Albany State, the quarterback, I feel a lot more confident about Albany, but I don't know what his status is for this game, and that means that I'm going to go with Benedict as well.
That's Ferg. I looked at this and I had that same thought and concern. Coach Poe, which way are you going?
Benedict.
Chuck, how about yourself?
I probably should go with the Tigers because I've had a lot of good luck picking them over the last several years. But their offense has been really hot and cold throughout most of the season. I don't
It
like
has.
that against Albany in this, so I'm going to go with Albany State in this one.
I wanted to go to Albany State, but seeing them and the struggles they had with this 7-3 this last game and so forth, this scared me off them. I'm going with Benedict, and Benedict is probably going no, because they do better when I pick the other way on them. So, and Chuck, we're back to the coin flip deal of the
good Lord.
PSAC here. Yeah, Cal and IUP.
I'll take Edinburgh
Tony.
in this one.
Tony, which way are you going?
Cal beat Slippery Rock. Slippery Rock beat IUP. You'd think Cal should be able to beat IUP. Cal's good defensively. I don't know. I just don't think Matthew Reevy's going to play that poorly twice in a row. I know they let me down last week, but I still think IUP wins this one.
Ferg, how you see it?
I just want to say that any conference with the name or the initials SAC in it, you just don't know whether it's the South Atlantic or the PSAC. You just don't know from week to week. Anywho, I'm going to go with Cal.
IUP should be crying right now, too, because picking the PSAC, I think I'm like somewhere around the Mendoza line. So sorry, Crimson Hawks. My bad.
Poe, you got a chance to make up some ground here. Who you got, buddy?
I'm going to take Cal.
Chuck, I'm going to listen to you closely. What do you got here?
I have no intel that'll be useful for you, Whit. I really don't.
See, now he's saying the quiet part out loud. He just waits for intel and then makes his picks. And then sits there and does a dance and shows John Daly footage and crap like that. This is all nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously this could go either way. It is a rivalry game. I think IUP underperformed this past week. I think Slippery Rock played much more inspired football than they did. That's the challenge for IUP this week. They have to find their emotional level to win this football game. They did not do that last week. So that's their challenge for this week. They have to be more prepared. They have to play emotional football. They have to play with a sense of urgency. They have to be the better football team. I think they're going to bounce back and do it this week. So I'll go with the Crimson Hawks.
See, I thought Cal was going to kind of get handled by Slippery Rock. They end up winning against Slippery Rock. And IUP, okay, I'm with Chuck. I think that they should dare do for a bounce back here. I'll take IUP. I feel like I'm instantly regretting my pick no matter which way I was going to go on this. So I'll take IUP.
Just the fact that I took them should have been enough for you to go the other way, but okay. That was all the intel you needed.
The Emery and Henry, who feel I think this is their 14th straight week on the pick'em. No,
yeah, right.
The SAC has had a string of games here where they've had really good games this last month. Emery and Henry, in this case, a team that we thought was going to take the lead in the conference, and then they fell. And now you got Newberry, who seems like they're the next one up. Tony, how are you going with this?
Oh, brother. I don't know, man. I feel like Newberry at home is probably the safer pick, but I just look at how many close games they've played and how many times they've actually given up a surprising number of points, and I just feel like Emery and Henry's going to be more successful against a defense that might not be as week in and week out tough as Wingett's was last week. So I'm looking for Emery and Henry to bounce back here, actually.
Ferg, is Newberry going to stay hot?
I think so. I do like what they're able to do in both passing and rushing. It seems like they've really got something cooking there. And I'm going Newberry. I think Newberry's going to have enough in a game like this.
Coach Poe, how do you see it?
Yeah, we've talked about Emery and Henry quite a bit this season. I feel like every week they're kind of on our radar, but and Newberry's just quietly handled their business at 6-1 right now.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Atop the sack, right? Like so. I think this one is and Newberry. Anybody who's ever been to Newberry knows it's a tough place to play, and you got to go in there and handle your business. And they're very tough to beat at home in particular. But I like Emory and Henry in this game. I think they're battle tested. I think they're tough. I think they're built to win in that environment, in that stadium. So give me Emory and Henry in this one, who still has everything that they want still in front of them.
Chuck, how do you got it, buddy?
Well, first, I like your comment about how competitive the SAC has been this year. We've kind of made light of things a little bit because it's wreaked havoc with our picks, but the competition within the league has been a lot of fun to watch.
No doubt.
Setzler Field at night is a really tough place to play. Also a tough place to get home from. An easy place to get caught speeding leaving. Sorry for a different show. But for all those reasons, I will go Newberry.
I feel like whoever is kind of crowned as the new big deal falls every time when we get to this. And it feels like Newberry's the new guy on that conversation. I'm going to go Emory and Henry to reply and back here and get a win. But another really tough game. We got two left. Southern Arkansas. Man. We just talked about a moment ago. Why do we have them on here against Ouachita? Well, I realize Ouachita's got 3 losses, but you know what? They are still in a spot where they have an outside chance at the playoffs with 3 losses. And proud football team. Guys, it's going to be at Ouachita. Tony, who you going with here?
Man, this is one that I've just been struggling with it because I think Southern Arkansas has just been on that slow build. It's taken them a few seasons, but I think they're on the cusp of being one of those teams that can really be consistent in the GAC, and they start knocking on the door of maybe not the Hardings, but they're going to be, okay, in that conversation with Ouachita and Henderson with, okay, who's possibly going to get that second playoff spot out of that conference. And this is the type of game that traditionally they haven't been able to get over the hump. I feel like Southern Arkansas is the better team coming in, but I don't know. For some reason, Ouachita is telling me at home they've got a 3-game win streak going. I just something tells me that this is still just that game that Southern Arkansas doesn't get over the hump. So I'm going to take the Tigers just on a hunch.
Okay, Ferg. Oh, okay. Ferg was down for a moment. Ferg, I'm going to. Oh, now you're back up. Okay, good. Ferg was going and doing more research. He was going to come back in 10 minutes, but now he's back. Ferg, what do you got on this one, buddy?
Man, I tell you, I'm going to go with Southern Arkansas to break a 8-game losing streak to Ouachita and to win at Ouachita for the first time since like 2012, 2014, something like that. 2012, something like that. So it's not going to be easy, but I believe in you, Mule Riders. I believe in you.
Ferg, I love when you bring me back facts like that I don't know. Good stuff. Coach Poe, how do you see this one?
Man, I'm going to say, Tony, it's not a hunch because I'm right there with you. Give me Ouachita in this one. At home, I like them.
Chuck, is everyone falling for Ouachita here? Is Southern Arkansas the pick? How do you see it?
Yeah, no, I was pretty much in line with Tony's analysis and thought process. I really like the kind of slow upward trajectory that Southern Arkansas has been on. But I'm going to pick them to kind of get a breakthrough win here. I'm going Mule Riders.
I'm going to take Ouachita to win this game at home. I think they are a proud football team. I think they see themselves winning this game, and I'm going to go ahead and take them in their own yard. Woo, big one here. Game that is every year the biggest regular season game in Division II. Grand Valley at Ferris. There's one team out there that feels every time they play them that they have a chance to knock off Ferris. And there's a whole lot of teams who don't come into this game feeling like they can. So Grand Valley, I'm always going to say, has a puncher's chance, even though they're coming off of a loss here. Tony, I'm going to end with you since obviously, you're on did radio last week and everything else and are pretty close to that fire. Kay Ferg, I'm going to start with you. Does Grand Valley have a puncher's chance to take out Ferris?
Well, I would say that do they have a puncher's chance? Sure, they have a chance. I mean, it's no different than 1 in a million chance type deal for me.
Okay.
You know, Ferris just has way too many options, weapons, things like this. I know it's a big rivalry game. I'm kind of tempted to go up to see this game because I have not been to. This is at Ferris, and I've not been to Ferris, so I'm tempted. Um, but I don't think that Grand Valley is going to have enough. I just don't see it. I'm going with Fair State.
Fair enough. Coach Poe, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, all valid points, Ferg. All valid points. I pretty much align with everything you're saying, except to me, this thing is a rivalry game, right? Like this game, it doesn't matter what the damn records are. It doesn't matter what happened last week and who they're playing, the rest of the way. What matters is these two teams are playing each other, and it's going to be nasty. It's going to be a slugfest. And again, like I've been a part of these games. It's just a different vibe. Once that game ended yesterday, it's a different vibe today all the way through, Friday. And I actually think Grand Valley is primed to pull the upset here, guys. I'm gonna take Grand Valley. I think they're ready to go. They're being overlooked with the loss to Saginaw this week. I think Grand Valley is gonna come out and get after them a little bit. Give me Grand Valley, guys.
Coach Poe swinging heavy leather. I like it. Chuck, you share the same optimism as your boy Poe.
No.
Maybe the driest way possible. Sure. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, look, we could talk for a while and find a path for Grand Valley here for all the reasons you guys mentioned, the familiarity that they have with each other. And look, if you're going to beat Ferris State, the first thing you have to have is a whole bunch of really good football players. We know that Grand Valley has that, so they'll find ways to match up. They'll find things on film that they can do. Of course, they're going to have a puncher's chance in this, to answer your question, Whit. But I, in terms of making a pick, I think it's foolish to go any other route here. So Ferris is the pick.
Well, and we've got some interesting comments here from folks who know Grand Valley well. I think the concern is that their inability to run the football, like when they have to run the football, and in the way that they've been able to in the past, and some of the kind of views by folks who know the program fairly well. And, that would be huge, obviously, if they did pull the upset. I just, in watching Grand Valley a week ago and watching them against Pitt as well, against two very good opponents, I just feel like this offense still feels a little bit young, and they're not dominating the line of scrimmage the way Grand Valley, I think, would need to in this contest, because I think Ferris is going to be very quick to the spot. And I was able to see quite a bit of that when they were playing Michigan Tech, who's not a bad ball club, this last week. So I, too, am taking Ferris. Tony, I'll now kind of pivot to you now at this point.
Well, for the folks who, think this is an automatic decision, I mean, I think Poe's onto something here where,
yep,
I think one of the things I probably didn't talk enough about when we reviewed the Saginaw game was just the job that Brandon Clayton and Saginaw's defense did in that game yesterday.
Yes.
And that's the second time in 2 years that Saginaw has basically been the most effective stopping Grand Valley's offense, period. And last year's defense, we know that the Cardinals were loaded with dudes. This is a defense that has continued to get better over the course of the year, and guys have rounded into form. And so they were able to replicate what they did last year. Now, does Ferris have the ability basically to take that blueprint and copy it? Okay, probably. But at the same time, it is that rivalry game. It doesn't mean that Grand Valley is not going to try and adapt or pivot. At the same time, when you just look at it, it's real simple. I mean, when you look at what these two teams have put on tape thus far this year, I don't know how you can't look at what Ferris has done and say that's the more impressive body of work. It's just what it is. So I absolutely think this is going to be a tighter game than people probably think it might be. And Grand Valley can absolutely win it. But based on that body of work, I'm going to pick Ferris.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, those are the picks for this week. Whit, before we kind of wind this down, I know you've got some thank yous to go through for video highlights, but before we kind of bring this to a close, we'll go through a couple questions. Was there anything else you wanted to cover off, considering that coming up very soon, we'll be talking about the regional rankings?
Yeah, and that's just it, Chuck, is a year ago, there was a new measure that was brought on in called KPI, which is kind of the Kevin Pauga index. And I'm mentioning that because this is a snapshot, and I try to just copy paste it quick from the internet. It's on a site called Factor, and we've got a lot of the usual suspects. This is a performance indicating tool that was used quite a bit last year to shape what the field looked like. And Chuck, I'm noticing a few early things amongst, once we move past teams that we expect to be there that are unbeaten or what have you. Wingate is up at 9 in this measure. That Edward Waters is at 18. These are teams that, have a few losses, but are still being looked at very well per the numbers. So we will be revisiting this, Chuck, in a week or two when we talk more about this. But this is a big factor in kind of the performance side of things and how the committee's going to see some of this. And I thought that was worth kind of just planting a seed right there with everyone and seeing a little bit of what this looks like before we jump in with both feet.
Yeah, no doubt. We saw a lot of evidence that was being used last year, and we were kind of told privately that it was definitely being used. So
right,
we expect to see some more of that. So run us through a couple of thank yous, Whit, and then we'll do a couple of questions that I wanted to bring up, and then we'll call that a show.
Yeah, so the Slippery Rock footage that we had earlier, news coverage, WKBN 27 out of Youngstown, Ohio, who's just 40 miles west of Slippery Rock. They were able to get that for us. And then we've got of course, Flo and Huddle both always being contributors to our video of the show. But Chuck, what do we have in the way of questions, buddy?
Well, let's bring that down, if you will, and swap that a little bit. First of all, lots of love for Northern Michigan when we went through that. That was fun to see. Let's see. Along the lines of the GLAC, I just wanted to bring this up. Kudos to Tony and of course talking through the ball spotting episode. So,
brother,
definitely some amusement there.
And by the way, folks can tune into GLIAC Weekly, and Tony and I we might have a whole separate bit on that exact portion.
I almost think we have to, man. It was on the broadcast. I called it Keystone Cop officiating, and it was. I know people in the Glee pack, and they're probably going to be mad at me for saying that, but I'm sorry, man. That was
what? It was something that was pretty obvious, and folks, we'll just leave it at that. Tune on in. You get a chance to hear us break it down.
Yep.
I mean, Tony, I think the officiating in various parts of the country has been very adventurous, to say the least.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm not sitting here trying to say that that's an easy gig. Don't kid yourself. You get down on the field; these guys are big and they're fast, and you can't always see everything. I get it, but yeah, there were some significant calls that, in my opinion, didn't change the outcome of the game, but boy, they sure changed just how the game unfolded in certain regards, and you just don't want to see that be the case. That's just not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
By the way, real quick, Chuck, before I go any further, Chuck, just so everyone is aware,
he did not.
Yeah, we don't unpack that on this show, other than our original show where we had our top 25 stuff. So, yeah. Chuck, that'll be coming out late Monday, something like that.
Yeah, it'll be out tomorrow. It's usually Monday. AFCA is always on Monday as well.
There you go.
So I'd like for you to just kind of talk to this. I think the question is meant sincerely, just how we pick that, but kind of just talk through some of the qualifications.
Yes. What are your qualifications? Okay. It is essentially going to be what teams are highest up in terms of what we think are the best teams in the country playing against each other in competitive ball games. That would be the easiest way to define it. If we're going to have two teams that are under 500, probably not going to see us mention that. The only time you're going to see us mention a team under 500 is if you have a team like Valdosta this last week, where it wasn't, or this week, not in our Super 7, but it was in our games to watch, just because it's, Valdosta's got 2 wins and they were playing the national title game, that kind of stuff. And they have an interesting matchup, but that's kind of my thought on kind of how we arrive there. Guys, you obviously see what games that we have on there. What other ways would you guys characterize how we come up with these?
I think sometimes we'll go for rivalry games.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes we'll talk about, like a Black Hills Brawl or something like that.
And that's probably the exception of the teams
yeah.
with losing records right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are going to be weeks, gosh, a couple weeks ago, right? We had Central Oak in, even though they had a losing record, because we were like, geez, what the heck is going on with these guys?
Yep.
And we also were, if you just looked at the slate, there just weren't a lot of good games. And I think ultimately Witt, picks the games so that he thinks will give him an advantage so he can win the pick 'em and torture the rest of them.
I think there's yeah. Ultimately, it's I know we used to, when Brandon used to do this, he was always trying to find games where we're not all going to pick the same team because that's boring, right?
That's
exactly.
That's exactly where we're going.
We want to try to find some games where we think there's an argument to make both ways, like. Probably the reason we didn't bring in Western Colorado and Mines, because we probably all would have picked Western Colorado, which is with where those two teams are at right now. Let's see. So
I was just going to mention also, like, I think by the time we get to the end of the season, we've probably circled around to all the conferences too. But there are just there's some teams that are just week in and week out find themselves in these like really like toss-up matchups. Like UCO was that team starting out.
Yeah.
Pitt was that team because they're scheduled at the beginning of the year. Now we're kind of going through the SAC, stage with Wingate and Emory Henry. So I mean, some of these schools, they're just the way they built their schedules and their conference schedules are so good and they're performing at a high level that you can't take your eyes away.
Right. So this comment was entered while we were kind of going through, just the infographics that we do to try to shine the light or spread it around to all the different teams. So yeah, I get it. But two things on that. We're not trying to go super deep on those. And yes, the infographic only shows you the score, but Jonathan, that's why we're narrating around that. That's why we're saying stuff about what you're seeing on the screen. So hopefully we're giving you a little bit more than just the score. It's, trying to give you some intel on what the result means and why it's important. So I appreciate the comment, but
if Jonathan wants to watch every Division II game every week so he can know all those things and start his own show, hey, Mazel Tov, go after it.
Yeah,
all right.
I mean,
sure.
That's part of why we have regional guys too, right? Because we all watch different things. We pay more attention to different things.
No, right, exactly. And I'm not looking to push back real hard.
I'm not either. I was just being a smarty pants.
But no, I mean, that's, we're not looking to go real deep, but I also think we're generally giving you a lot more than just what the score was. We're trying to give you some intel on that. So this is interesting. You guys agree with this? I assume he's talking about if Grand Valley could defeat Varus, it would be the biggest upset in the series. I mean, obviously, we're kind of talking more recent memory, I would think. Historically, I have no idea.
I don't know. I seem to remember Coach Anis's first year, Grand Valley was ranked pretty high, I think, and Ferris went into Allendale and won for the first time in that series in probably 11 or 12 tries, I want to say. That was a pretty big one.
Yeah, I was kind of figuring it had to be something a ways back. So.
And I'm sure there's one too where I think Ferris had some. Ferris was one of the best teams in the country back in the 90s. I know there was a game in there where Grand Valley got them, and I know there were a couple other times where Grand Valley back in the 80s and 90s had really good teams, and Ferris got them. So I suppose it's an eras thing. You can talk about that a lot of different ways.
Yep. Let's see. We've got just a few more. I started talking about dual threats. DeJuan Owens had a big impact in Slippery Rock. Yep, for sure. He absolutely did. And that's a player who is just going to continue to get better with each start. Remember, he is still a young player, hasn't played a ton of football for the Rock. He is a player who's just going to continue to get better for them. So keep an eye on him. I think we probably covered this one. Mule Riders, and if they can get a big win this weekend, we're like their shot at the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean,
they still got Henderson,
Turtle, isn't it?
No, they already beat Henderson.
Yeah, they beat Henderson.
Yeah.
Just have to be careful not to get upset. They got like East Central that can do
Sure.
cause an upset or so. So that would be the big one after that.
Right.
Yep. Let's see. Here's one from Brad. Did Slipwreck ever tear down that building on the top of? Yes, the Stadium Lodge. They have taken that down. It's kind of a shame to see it go. It was a very, we love when stadiums have something that's really unique to that venue. The stadium lodge, it kind of overlooked the field, was really cool, but I think it had gotten kind of dated and probably wasn't really worth the upkeep. And they've kind of moved that. They kind of replicated that down at field level, which is kind of more the expectation now for your donors and supporters. So yes, unfortunately, Brad, they have gotten rid of it. I was sorry to see it go because it was such a cool thing and something really unique to their venue. But times do change. So that will pull that down. Unless Whit, if you saw any others you wanted to bring up.
No, I'm back, Chuck, with Northern Sun action coming up this week, and gonna have a show tomorrow night. And my guy Dykstra might need for us to kind of shuffle on over and do a doubleheader tomorrow night. If so, look on our social media. I will address that if that happens. And had our buddy Brandon Meisner in the comments going ahead, and he watches the show and every once in a while you'll see him in the comments. So good to see him interacting right there.
Yep, he has been quite active tonight, so good to see that. So, yeah, top 25 tomorrow, Players of the Week on Tuesday, columns and podcasts all week long. Whit, I'm curious to hear the story of Tom's foot on NSIC Weekly, so make sure that is headline news.
Say big things for people to watch this week on the pods.
Nice.
I mean, all kinds of stuff.
What is this? OnlyFans? Talking about feet?
Yes.
No,
Tom's
no,
OnlyFans foot show. Yes.
It's what Witt's podcast is going to be after he retires from D2. It's Witt's Podiatry Corner.
Exactly. In the comments, hey, what are you wearing?
Exactly. See?
We got hair care products and feet.
Oh, why
boy,
is your face turning so red?
I am pulling the eject handle right now. Bye, everyone. See you next week.